I when I was doing like door-to-door in-person sales, someone reached out to the company, booked a call. I was selling like payroll and credit card processing and stuff like that. And they set up a meeting. I looked at the meeting place. It was a house. I'm like, all right, maybe they operate out of their homes, right? I go there, knock on the door. A lady shows up, and
Oh
she
gosh.
said, all right, the boss is waiting for you in the house. I'm like, cool. I grab my bag and go in, and she says, he's actually downstairs. And I look at downstairs from those scary movies, like the dark basement type of thing.
Oh man.
Down there, she's like, yeah, just go down there. I'm like, oh, I don't feel good about this. And I just go down and I'm like, oh man, this is getting darker and darker. I go down there and it's like unfinished basement, and this dude is like sitting on a chair basically, right? And then as I went down, I see the door closing behind me, the lady, and she didn't come
Some horror movie stuff.
down. I'm like, all right, yeah, this is interesting. And the guy has on each side has these Doberman dogs, like one each, right? Like on leash, like
What the hell?
yeah. And I'm like, hey, sir, I noticed that you booked a call. Like, why wanted to show interesting choice for a meeting place, but how is everything going? He's like, here's how this is gonna go. Either you connect me to your boss and you give my money back, or you can't get out of here. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think you have the wrong person. At the time, my company I worked for was Paychecks, the big payroll company, right? Apparently, this due to a lot of history with them. My manager didn't tell me, right? So the company made a mistake on payroll. I don't know who's right or who's wrong. Like, I'm just a sales guy, right? I show up. This
Yeah.
dude is like, you guys made a mistake. I lost a lot of money. Now they don't even answer my phone, and I wanted to sue them. So basically, you're gonna get on the phone with your boss until I get my money back. I'm like, so you're taking me hostage?
Sup, my fellow side hustlers. I'm Elijah, your host, and in this show, we're going to be talking about exactly what a business loan broker is, and also what's the process of being one if you want to make money in that way. But more importantly, we're going to be talking about the concept of using debt to expand your business or establish a business. Now, full disclosure, I'm not really someone that's huge on using debt to expand or establish your business. I've quite literally only used it once in my ever since 2017 when I quit Amazon and went into business myself. So that kind of tells you how much experience I have using debt to expand. But with that being said, I still acknowledge its place in business. And in some situations, it may make sense to use it. But this is where our guest comes in for this show, who has much more experience than I have in this regard. Now, this is interesting because it makes for an interesting back and forth. Because to some degree, I was more so on the you don't really need debt to expand side, and he is a business loan broker, so he's more so on the here's how you can use debt to expand if you use it responsibly. So you're going to get two sides of the coin, which is good to know as a one-person business to know exactly what your options are, and then you can make an informed decision on what you would like to do from there. His name is Oz Konar. He is a multiple seven-figure entrepreneur, investor, and the founder of the Business Lending Blueprint. This is a leading training company that helps thousands of people build profitable businesses and business loan brokers by teaching them how to fund companies while earning high commissions. With the mission to empower self-starters to design their own dreams via entrepreneurship, Oz's work has been featured in major publications, and he speaks nationally as well as internationally on business growth. His blueprint has created numerous 6- and 7-figure earners and helped people transition from jobs to recession-resilient businesses. Now that you have an idea of what Oz has to offer, let's go ahead and get started with the show.
Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society Podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
Okay, side hustlers. Y'all know we have another podcast today, and I'm excited to be talking with our guest Oz here. It's real interesting because me personally, I'm actually not a huge like debt tonic type of guy, but I do acknowledge that it is a tool that can be used to really accelerate the process of business growth. So that's why I'm excited for this show, because it's not something that I personally would talk about like a lot because I don't have a lot of experience. But our guest does have a lot of experience in this avenue. So how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Elijah. How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. I would say it's actually been a very productive month so far. I know the month just got started like in March, but every day it's been very productive.
That's awesome.
But before we do hop into it, everyone should know that you're also a YouTuber. You have your own YouTube channel. So we talked a little about this before I pressed the record button. I made sure I pressed it before we got any deeper. But you've actually been in these YouTube streets a lot longer than me. My first channel I started was like 2017. That's when I kind of hopped on the scene. And I remember when I looked up your channel, it was you created it in 2011. So in your opinion, like, has YouTube, for the creator, like for people who are YouTubers, has it gotten better or has it gotten worse? In like what ways?
That's a great question. So there are a lot more creators than before, right? So back in 2011, especially in my specific industry, like alternative lending, there was basically no one. And then my first exposure, or I guess like the epiphany moment that, oh shoot, I should be shooting more YouTube videos, was one day I was kind of a little aggravated. I used to run like a marketing agency, very specific niche industry. We were doing marketing for like merchant cash advance companies, right? And then I didn't really have any organic content. And then I was on calls all day long, and back to back, the companies that I talked to, they all wanted to kind of keep doing marketing in traditional ways, like have an office full of dudes, basically a lot of bromance and boiler room mentality, like telemarket, smile and dial. And I was trying to transition them to, hey guys, like you don't need like 50 people. We can actually do an email blast and get better results. Like we can do a marketing type of thing instead of you calling deadbeat leads. And then I was having a lot of resistance because they just didn't see the future, or maybe I didn't even do a good job explaining. I don't know whose fault that was. But one day I was like, not happy with it. I pulled up a whiteboard, like literally I was holding it in front of the camera and explaining to them why, if they don't do online marketing, they're going to be out of business soon. And my energy was kind of angry, right? And I'm like, here's why you're going to fail in this business. While the YouTubers are like, here's how to succeed in this business. I'm like, here's what's going to happen to you if you don't kind of change your marketing. And I kind of shot it and kind of forget about it. And nothing happened for a couple of weeks. And I noticed that people were watching and reaching out to me. All of a sudden, it became like an organic lead generation, which was not the intention at all, because in my mind, who's going to freaking watch it? Like some dude on YouTube getting angry. And then all these companies who were my target audience were like, dude, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I feel your passion. I was simply angry. And I was like, yeah, we got to do this. And I'm like, okay, so what if I do more? Then it wasn't like this thought out plan of me being a YouTuber, right? It was like me just posting stuff. And then I always invest in myself, like, on coaching. And someone said that, yeah, when you have success with your clients, shoot some testimonials. And that kind of started it. So back then, going back to your question, it was easier. Now it's a lot more crowded. What I see the trend, it kind of loops and comes back to the same point. People who are having, like, depends on what your goal is. I don't consider myself a YouTuber. I have a business and I have a YouTube channel. But if you're a YouTuber, that's kind of different, right? So like that YouTube is your business, kind of, if you're running this as a business. I'm excluding people who just shoot YouTube videos for fun, like a gamers and whatnot, right? But I'm talking about if you have a business and you're a YouTuber, I think your responsibility is a lot more different than mine, for example. So I run a business and YouTube helps me. That allows me to get my offer in front of people. That part hasn't changed, but full circle right now in a super crowded world, the best thing you can do is, like, in my opinion, is go super niche. So your channel might not really grow as much, but you're going to attract the right people, right? Whereas if your goal is to grow the YouTube channel, you need to start from broad, like a reverse triangle almost, right? So at the top, we talk about current events, or like if you're talking about financial success, it's got to stay broad. then kind of funnel it down and keep testing different content types. That's the biggest problem I see with a lot of YouTubers. They have generic content, but everything is generic. And then the channel doesn't grow or doesn't get the views. So you have to think of it like a funnel, right? Yeah, I have the catch it all type of like casting a net. But then out of those, you have people who are really, really interested in whatever that you're offering. Then you have to have the middle of the funnel content that just gives more info that will repel the beginner people. Then you have more content for it. I think the biggest thing that I see is that YouTubers decide on a content format, kind of stay with it, and they don't notice like who's actually watching. So that thing hasn't changed, but obviously there's just a lot more people talking about the type of topic that other people talk about. Then that comes I get coached by Alex or Mosey, his advice is just do more than everyone else does, right? So he's pushing like 450 pieces of YouTube content a week. And if you're posting once a week, you're not gonna like catch up to that, right? So it's gonna beat you in every realm. So I guess the answer is depends on how you categorize yourself. Are you a YouTuber or are you a business owner who has a YouTube channel? Does that make sense?
Oh, that's you're singing to the choir for me, because they are two different things in my opinion. Like I would fit under the, you know what, it's real interesting because I have multiple channels, and I would actually say to my financial anatomy channel, it is my biggest YouTube channel, but that fits under the category of being a YouTuber because the content I make over there is strictly to get more views, which in turn gets more ad revenue. Versus this channel, it's actually a business. Like this channel won't get as many. Well, it still gets a lot of views, but compared to financial anatomy, it's not going to get as many views. But the type of person that listens to this channel is the type of person I want to serve business-wise. So obviously there's going to be people who are going to consume the free content and get value out of that. But a number of those people, they're going to pick up my book. They're going to book a consultation with me. They might get one of my online courses. And that's much more valuable than them just watching, let's say, a few videos, and I'll make some pennies off of YouTube AdSense.
Absolutely. And then if you're just a YouTuber, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're kind of stuck in that cycle of having to push content, right? So for example, we have like I talk about alternative lending only, basically, right? I don't even do like lifestyle stuff, but I see other channels that has 400,000, 500,000, and even million subscribers. And it's not honestly that difficult to do that. What they're doing is taking a credit card and walking people through how they can get 0% and the perks and the benefits, or how they can get grants. So it's easier to grow that channel, but the type of people who are watching that stuff are very unlikely to buy anything from you. So you're playing the view game, right? So you're going to have 30, 40,000 views. So if that's your thing and you want to monetize it, then you're going to make a couple of $1,000s from YouTube. Awesome. But I like that you separated your channels. Like you have different channels for different purposes. I never done that. Everything goes through my channel because I don't have the time or the patience to shoot like 5 videos a week. Like it's going to be like weekly, sometimes bi-weekly. And that's something on my end. My mistake is that Google is adamant about consistency, right? And then we're always like, yeah, we have videos. Like we have a backlog of like 6 videos right now, and we scheduled it. But it was never like a YouTuber, because if you're going to be a YouTuber, you need to have the discipline of constantly shooting content and putting it out there and improving yourself, which is one can argue that is a business itself, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it also depends on what niche you're in. And we'll move on in a second. I'm not going to make this a YouTube show. But there are certain niches that pay more than others. Like if you did have a game, as a YouTuber, let's say you had a gaming channel, that channel, assuming you catch on stuff that's trending, like Grand Theft Auto 6 is supposed to drop either later this year, but probably beginning next year. I think it's going to get delayed. But let's say you start making content on that. That content will probably get millions of views, but the type of people watching are a bunch of angry teens, or they're really broke people.
Yeah.
So the RPM for that is not going to pay as much as, let's say, if you're making real estate videos, and the ads that they're going to run on that YouTube channel is going to be like ads for buying a new house, like a wedding ring advertisers. Like these people will pay more. So a gamer channel might have an RPM of like $2 to $4, versus a real estate channel could have an RPM of around $25 to $30. And for reference, RPM, that's just how much you get paid per 1,000 views. That's a big difference. You want to know what type of niche you're going into and what's the money potential as a YouTuber. Because I would argue the gaming niche, unless you're going to be getting millions of views, you're not going to make that much money.
No. And then you're always at the risk of someone else. Like, you're not offering anything unique other than a cool experience, right? So I play this game really, really well, and that's what you're bringing to the table, which is fine. Then but you can't really deposit likes and views to the bank. Like, you got to make money at some point.
Yeah. And even if you had a pure real estate channel, people involved with real estate have money. So if you did start selling like a digital product or something, there's people in that audience that if they want to support you, they actually could buy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the final thing, I know, yeah, this has become about YouTube so far. Two YouTubers talking to each other. It's like you got to be careful not to confuse the algorithm. I see people like keep switching stuff back and forth, like totally unrelated. One day talk about crypto, the other day talk about real estate, the other day, unless you're running like a news-based channel, like a recent events, that's fine if you're doing it. But they have like a core offer, and sometimes I see their videos have nothing to do with that. They do it because, oh, crypto went down, and they said, I'm going to capitalize on that audience. Yeah, you ain't capitalizing on that audience. You're confusing YouTube, right? So what is your channel? What's your purpose? Like, you got to be clear for the algorithm and the AI to kind of support you. Unless, again, you're like Meet Kevin or some other person who just goes through current events. That's just his channel, and he sells training on top of that, right? Which is not easy thing to pull. It looks attractive, but you got to be on top all the time. And it's like being a journalist. You got to beat the market, get in front, and be able to be knowledgeable enough to add your own flair to what is happening in the world. You can't be just reading the news, basically. That's more complicated. I think that's what it is, like people making it their mind and kind of sticking with it. And we have a consistency issue. People start a YouTube channel, 3 months later, they bail out, like nothing happened. Well, I've been doing this since 2011. So like you just got to stay with it. And the plan was never to be a YouTuber, but it helped grow my business, and it starts ranking on search results. And there's just a lot, like that consistency pays off in any type of business,
Yeah. And this will be the last thing, but I think that's probably the biggest thing that's changed from like when you started to now. At some point, I think sometime between 2015 and 2017, some change in the YouTube algorithm happened to where like variety channels are pretty much dead. The algorithm rewards consistency, and once it gets an idea what your channel is about, then it's going to serve your videos to the audience that it feels is going to watch that. Versus before, I don't know what it was doing, but you could be a variety channel or a lifestyle channel, I'll say, and then you could make a video about, like, say, what you ate today, health and wellness, and then the next video will be about video games, and then the next video might be about something financial, and you still would have probably the same amount of views on all those videos. That definitely would not fly now.
Yeah, I think it's a speculation. This is my thought process. I think that had to do with YouTubers reaching the critical mass on YouTube platform, the number of channels. Then YouTube saying, all right, enough with this BS. Now I'm just going to reward people who actually deliver value content. Before it was like, hey, you want to be a YouTuber, buddy? Just post and I'm going to serve it. Now YouTube is being a lot more picky because there's just a lot more YouTubers. I don't have the specific number. I don't want to make it up, but there's a lot more than before. Over the past 10 years, it's like 10x, 20x. And I was expecting something like that from YouTube saying, yeah, you were getting views before, but you got to make up your mind. Like, you can't be talking about everything,
Nicely put. That's a good ending note for the YouTube talk. So
it only got 15 minutes for us to finish that.
Well, you get two YouTubers talking by default. I guess it was just inevitable what happened. Is it going to happen in the beginning, in the middle, or the end? And it's probably best it happens in the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
Especially since a lot of my viewers are actually interested in YouTube in general.
Nice.
They're probably gobbling this up. But now that the YouTube discussion is kind of concluded, we can kind of hop into the brass tacks of the show. So, Oz, your business name is a business lending like blueprint. What inspired you to start that?
Me needing funding first. Like, I wanted to understand how funding works. I come from an immigrant family. I was 16, 17 when I came to the United States, and my father had been here prior to us for like 10 years. So we came in totally blind, not knowing anything about US. And I was here in my teenage years, the highest turmoil years, right? Came in here, not speaking English or anything like that, kind of thrown into the wolves, and also found out that my father's business was totally failing. He's a butcher. He's an amazing butcher, but he didn't know anything about business. Like most people, they don't teach business in school. So business was falling apart. After we arrived, like 3-4 months later, we had to file bankruptcy, and we had to kind of dig ourselves out of a big financial hole. And that kind of left a lot of scars in my, teenage years to understand, all right, why are we broke? How did we end up in this situation? And then you have this hero figure, your father, and how did he not know about this? Like, what was happening, right? And that let me go down the rabbit hole to understand how finances work. But I had a lot of conflicting situation happening while this was happening. I finished high school. I went to college, did double major in biology and chemistry, which has nothing to do with finances. So it was a lot of soul searching for me. Like I was, on one hand, trying to get into medical school. On the other hand, trying to figure out the money situation. And then I found out that, US doesn't pay for medical school. You pay out of pocket. That was another hit to my dreams. I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm going to graduate with like $250,000 or more in debt. And I'm just coming out of debt. Like, what do I do with myself? And that led me to get into sales. I got into financial services industry, selling payroll, credit card processing. Then one day, through networking, one dude basically said, hey, man, like you work with a lot of restaurants, we can provide funding to them and you make a handsome commission, right? And I honestly didn't understand half of what he said. I said, okay, so if I'm making money, I'm going to make the introduction. And a few days later, he just gave me a check for $4,000. And that was the highest amount I ever made in my life with my name on it, like a check. I'm like, yeah, there's got to be a mistake, man. All I did was introduce you to people. He's like, no, this is actually how it works. And anyone with half the intelligence obviously would be leaning on it. And that's just what I did too. I'm like, all right, I got to learn more about this stuff. If people are making money like this is interesting. That's what I learned, that if your motivation is to be financially literate, you got to stay close to money. I'm not saying you got to be a loan broker or something. You just got to understand how finances work. That doesn't mean you get in debt, but understand how credit works, funding works, how these multi-billion companies are getting access to credit and funding, and they're not really spending their hard-earned cash, while the average individual is usually scared away from using credit cards. Like if you watch Dave Ramsey, he's all about saving money. Again, nothing wrong with it, but if the motive is to get a credit card and go on a shopping spree, you have a lot of things wrong going on in your life anyways, right? So if you cannot stop yourself from that indiscretionary spending. But my thing is like, how do you use it to invest and grow and learn? So that was my passion basically. And over time, that let me understand alternative lending industry. That I started running a marketing agency, helping those companies. Then I started having people kind of congregate around me, like, oh, I want to learn this too. And that's the journey of how it started out to be like a training and funding company. So I was trying to solve my own problem, right? I know people talk about having a mission and world peace and help to humanity when they start out a business. When you start out a business, it's usually survival. You're trying to solve your own problem, right? All those missions kind of develop over time. Yeah, right now my mission is to eradicate financial illiteracy. But 10 years ago, I was just trying to make money as fast as possible. So like to be perfectly honest, and I try to meet people at their level. Yeah, so you can talk the big game, but if you don't understand how money works, someone who knows how money works will take your money, type of thing, right? So that's why you got to be armed. And also that's a skill set that can be passed down to your kids, because, my father, I love him, but he didn't teach me anything about money because he didn't know himself about anything about money. And then you have a teenage son, and my sister at the time was 14 years old. We're trying to get ready to the real world. And we're starting at a disadvantage because Elijah might know more about finances. How am I going to compete with him? Maybe he came from a better parents. Maybe he read more books. So I think, for example, our customer base are mostly age 45 and above. We're trying to close that gap for them so they can close it for their own kids and their family and all that stuff, because financial literacy is a skill that you can pass down. I know this was like a long-winded answer to your question, but that's how it started out for me.
Well, the way I see it, that's the origin story. And there is no too long origin story. In fact, if your origin story is too short, my eyebrows going to raise, to be honest. But you said some. You brought up Dave Ramsey. It's pretty interesting because let's see. I have his Total Money Makeover book right here, but where is it? I am also have Robert Kiyosaki's Cash
Oh,
Flow
yes.
Partner too. Now, these two could not be more opposite if I tried. It's literally like left, right. And so many people, they feel like they have to pick one side, but you really should know both sides of the equation. And then you might naturally be marinating toward aligning towards one side. That's fine, but you need to know both sides. So, like I just said, I am not that huge into using debt necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but I know how to use it. I've used it once in the past to finance one of my rental units. I have a few units that I have on Airbnb. When I started my first one, cost about $4,000 to furnish the unit, and then it became. I didn't take any money out that business, and it became profitable, about $600 cash flow. And I was given the opportunity to get a second unit, but it hadn't built up enough money, the $4,000 amount, to fully furnish the second unit. But I had an opportunity to get one at a discount, so I did take out a loan of around $1,500 to finance it. But I already had the blueprint on how fast I could pay it back, the details of the transaction, the date that I'd be able to pay it back, and would that ultimately save me money or give me the opportunity to make more money in the months to come? The answer was yes. So I went out, did it, and I paid it back in about 2.5 months. So that's been my only experience using debt in a business sense. But if I was totally like Dave Ramsey, I would just say no. And then I would have just waited months to do it. Then I would have missed out on the opportunity to get the unit at a discount. And it would have taken longer for that unit to become profitable because I would have started it during a slow season instead of a hot season. So I would have missed out on money. And that's why I say it's important to know both sides of the equation. That's why hearing your origin story, that's a very good to hear.
Big time, yeah. Like you said, it is what Dave Ramsey is teaching is not wrong, but it is half of the story, right? So you got to be financially disciplined. You have to have fiscal responsibility and all of that. But the conflicting thoughts appear when someone follows Dave Ramsey, but they want to make $1 million a year. Because that's a problem, right? If you want to save money for retirement or reduce your debt, let's say you didn't know enough and you need to reduce your debt, right? So yeah, the principles are sound. You got to do that. But a faster way to get rid of debt is to make more money than you owe, increase your income, right? And for you to increase your income substantially, if you want to make $1 million, you got to take $1 million risk. That doesn't mean go get $1 million yourself, $1 million debt, but you have to be able to make moves that's going to get you closer to that. But if your entire mindset is about saving money, I mean, if you're making 50K, are you going to save 40K? You're going to save proportional to the income that you're making. So the other half of the story is, yeah, how do I stay financially, fiscally responsible while increasing my exponential net worth or wealth, which is the Robert Kiyosaki approach, right? So yeah, you can use debt like we have in our community, people who buy rental properties with 0% down because they're using their credit score to get funding to use as a down payment. But if they do their due diligence and the property is cash flowing, it should take care of itself, right? But if you're not exposed to that at all and all your model is like cutting down credit cards, like cutting them in half and getting rid of them, you're kind of prisoning yourself in your own life and not fulfilling your full potential, because US is a very entrepreneurial country, and I think a good portion of the entrepreneurialism is just taking risks. And then concepts like that prohibits taking risks, more like live a reserved life. So if you lack the skill set or the discipline and finances, you got to learn it. But you got to make sure that you're not fully indoctrinated into the saving culture, so you don't invest anything, which is a problem, right? Then you need to have a job to have a consistent income because you're wanting to lowest risk potential for yourself, which is working for somebody else, and you might lose it at any time. You don't really know, but that's the perception. That's the part that I don't like about his philosophy, right? So it's got to be a balanced approach. Understand it, but don't be like a lifetime student of it,
Oh yeah, honestly, and the way Robert Kiyosaki, when he came out, his marketing was in direct opposition to Dave Ramsey's.
Yes.
Like the terminology he used about like, retiring and how long it's going to take. Is it going to take 30 years? I want to enjoy this stuff like when I'm young. And like, it is in direct opposition. And truth be told, I kind of feel this fits into the theme of this season of the Side Hustler Society. This season is actually focused on people who want to take their side hustle and become a full-time hustler. So no 9 to 5. These are things that you really need to know about. And Dave Ramsey's model, I almost feel like it's too employee-like. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't stick with that model. Or if you are going to stick with that model, it's going to be it's going to take a lot longer. And I feel like that model only really works if you have a job in the scenario. Once the job is gone, you got to do some evolving. I'm not going to be crapping on Dave Ramsey heavily because I just want people to understand this. And what you mentioned as far as this is actually a good segue into this question because you're providing a solution to this, but it's very hard nowadays for people to get loans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it was necessarily extremely easy before, but I want to say today it's been harder than ever to like just get loans for anything, especially if you're like self-employed and you can have a decent to good credit score and income to show. But there are certain lenders like that just won't lend you money just because you don't have a job. You're self-employed. Mm-hmm. So the rise of alternative lending is actually increasing. But in your opinion, why do you think lending has become so hard in terms of just traditional loans, like going into a bank? They're not lending money as much.
Yeah, great segue actually, because when you think about it, like necessity is the mother of invention, right? The fact that alternative lending industry exists is not a symptom. Like it's just basically there is a problem there. If people were getting access to the capital they wanted, there would be no need for alternative lending. Like the banks would just open their own alternative lending department and pretty much lend money. It doesn't exist. And it's been, when we watch alternative lending industry ever since 2008, it's been growing in triple digits, right? As a marketer, I don't believe that you can generate demand. You can channel the demand to a resource, right? So if there is no demand for cassette players, and for those who remember those, I'm not going to be able to sell cassette players by marketing it better, right? So there's got to be a demand for it. And there's a lot of demand for money, and that's driven by the banks, like you said, restricting funding to small businesses more and more. So when I started out, the narrative that I used to use, 70% of the bank applications are being declined for small businesses. Right now, I'm saying that it's 85, 89% of the small business loan applications being declined. And I'm not making that up. That's just how we see the demand, because bank declining the funding doesn't solve the problem for the small business, just because they got to know all of a sudden the money need didn't disappear. So they still need it. And people are going to figure out a way to do that, right? So get the money somehow, right? And then, why it is happening is that I think banks are very scarred from 2008 recession. Like, if the government didn't bail them out, most of the big banks wouldn't have existed. Like they would be done based on the damage they caused. And then you see like companies like Wells Fargo, a lot of fraud involved. You probably followed a couple of years ago, they were opening like fake bank accounts. So it's not just needing to capital, Elijah. It's just people are not trusting the banks anymore like they used to. Banks was like a
place both ways.
Right. Like, because then your bank is like, oh, they if you remember what happened with Wells Fargo, they would call you as an account holder, be like, hey, Elijah, we're going to send you a bunch of paperwork. If you sign it, we're going to help you. Then you didn't know that you were signing into them opening like 5 other bank accounts and the branch manager taking the credit on all of that. So when you do stuff like that, where you trust your money with, then people look for other areas. So like when I first started out, many people didn't want to do anything into alternative lending in this they didn't trust. But sometimes they almost trusted more than they trust banks. Like they going through private lenders. It's like a scary situation for the banks. But they're, as you know, like at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that can happen? The government bails them out again, and the taxpayers pay for their losses. So there's not much that, because the banks are needed. It's such an integral part of the economy in a capitalistic country. They're not going to allow big banks to go out of business. Not that we want them to, but it's just, why bother trying to provide funding to small businesses, which tend to be higher risk. And most of these banks are publicly owned, so they don't want to show losses on their books. Like they want to always show profit or wins meaning more bank accounts open, more cash deposits and things like that. So what they're optimizing for is a lot different than what the alternative lending is optimizing for. Alternative lending essentially is there's a bunch of people with billions of dollars sitting around. They want to lend that money out and make money with their money. And they don't want to deal with training brokers and having an army of salespeople. And then it creates the need for companies like us. We convert Elijah into a business loan broker, train him, and match him with the lenders so he can go to a small business and say, hey, you need 50K. Why don't you have it? Well, I can't get it from the bank. Okay, you want to look for other options. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the options are super expensive, but it solves a problem. That's why it keeps growing. Like I said, we can't manufacture that. We can't just pamper alternative lending in the shin. It will lead to like 300% growth. It's growing because people are taking advantage of it and they want to use it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does. In fact, I would love to hear your perspective on this. Everything you said applies, but then this is a little speculation, but some of it may be verifiable. A lot of these banks, like back in the 1960s, I want to say in the 2000s, that's when this started to become a big problem. The traditional way of getting a bank loan, you would need to go into the branch, present a business plan, and essentially win over whoever you're talking to convince them to make a case to the bank manager. And if their case is good, then they'll approve the loan. And then you have a relationship with the bank where if you pay them back, going back for another loan, you're pretty much already approved. We'll give you more money because you're reliable now. Nowadays, the process of getting a loan has started to become, in these big banks, has started to become so automated that your application is just approved or denied by AI. So instead of a business loan teller knowing you personally, they don't know you at all. You're just a stat. You're just a number. Correct. And that's a problem because knowing you personally could play a role in you getting that loan. And you being in the room, and this is where sales skills comes into play. If you have the skills, even if you're a little deficient in some areas, you could use your personality and sales skills to overcompensate in another area to make the person believe in, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on him, and that could pay off. That's not in the equation a lot of times because AI is just approving or denying without any of that being in the equation.
Absolutely. And that's why you see a lot of the branches shutting down physically, right? Look at what PNC is going through because banks had a functionality. When you think about it, it's mostly a real estate business. On the best parts of the town, they have branches and they used to have like stack up people in those branches, and you were required to go to a bank, whether you want to cash a check or wire money or like deposit. Now, the first thing was online banking. Now, the human connection was lost there. Like then I can do everything through online banking. I don't need to go to the bank unless you're the aging part of the population that you like to do this traditional way. You still go. They still invite you to the bank if you want to get a mortgage and whatnot. But then banks started downsizing because of the online banking. Because when you think about a bank, their hardest cost is not the money, it's the real estate. Like they need to pay rents and they need to pay employees and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, the population switched to using online banking, and there was no need to have 6-7 tellers. Like it could be like 1 or 2 tellers that can handle it. Then that's a big gain for them. Selling money was never a problem. They used to sell it in the form of like CDs, bonds, and mortgages and things like that. Now they can do most of that still through online. So and then the U.S. economy has grown too. So before it used to require you going to the bank and haggling and making friends with the small business banker. Right now, they're so powerless that all they have to do is send you a link, and you can even do it online without even talking to them, right? See what that does to the industry, right? So then all of a sudden, everything is very numbers, no feeling-based stuff, which, explains why the alternative, the bank funding doing this, alternative lending doing this, because the demand shifted to other sources. Then you think about like Shark Tank. Why did that appear? People like do that pitch to Shark Tank to sell a portion of their company to get the same funding. That used to be the banks. So I don't think people change a lot. It's just the banks change so much that just open avenues for other industries to kind of cover that gap, which worked for the banks, honestly, because again, they were so scarred from 2008. Now they deal with the cream of the crop, like companies, mid-sized companies, like companies with boards. They can loan them like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, pretty secure. It protects their stock prices. There's no a lot of fluctuation, while the alternative lending industry handles it. The interesting thing no one really talks about is a lot of these alternative lending lenders, some of them are being funded by the big banks. Like, you see where this is going? Like, Wells Fargo wouldn't give Oz, the small business owner, the money, but if Oz becomes a lender and I have 1,000 brokers, Wells Fargo says, Oz, what if I give you $5 million and you just lend it out? And then their risk is working with a bigger company versus Oz. So it's not like they're not in the alternative lending industry. They kind of switch the game a little bit.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because they, especially in real estate, they're so scared and scarred from 2008, because there were a lot of real estate deals, some legitimate and some kind of shady,
Sure,
that were happening between some of these bank tellers or people who were in charge of the real estate investment part of the bank, and like real estate investors. And when the crash happened, someone had to take the blame. And I don't think they mentally recovered from that to this day, which is why this process is probably so automated now. But like you said, oftentimes they could be financed in some of these alternative lending practices. So it's really just taking on a different form. And we're still going to get some of that industry. It's just not going to be direct.
it's not going to be direct. They're still heavily involved. Like, the people think that, oh, there's there's alternative lending industry. No, baby, that's not how it works. They're still funding the alternative lending industry, but they're taking a lot less risk, you know?
Yeah. So you use the term business loan broker. I know what that means, but why don't you break that down for the audience? So, like, what is a business loan broker?
It's like a financing matchmaker, you know, someone who's in the middle. That's what a broker is, right? Someone who's in the middle of the buyer and the seller. In our industry, there's lender who have access to capital, either through his or her own capital or venture capital, or from the banks, whatever, right? They have accumulated some cash at a cheaper rate. They want to sell it at a more expensive rate, and they make the money. So making money with money concept. These are what the lenders are. And I am personally one of the lenders as well. Like, we fund some of the deals ourselves. Broker is the someone who matches the person who needs funding with the person who has funding. And when that transaction takes place, you make a commission. That's what a business loan broker is. So you're basically selling the sexiest product on earth, money, right? Then the business owner can use that money to start a business, save a business, grow, for marketing, buy equipment. Like, we have funding options like SBA, government-backed funding, right? So you can do, the broker's job is to know enough to, in a consultative manner, take Elijah and put him into a program that's best fit for his business. And then every time the transaction happens, you get paid a commission, similar to how I got paid my $4,000 back then without even understanding the game. Now, these people who become business loan brokers, either they can do it similar to your channel's name, is like a side gig, right? Side hustle type of thing. They can still, not everyone hates their jobs, and not everyone wants to become 100% business loan brokers. So it can be a side gig bringing income, or you adding funding to your existing business. Elijah, we have a lot of accountants, bookkeepers. They don't hate their job, but they come across a lot of people who need funding. They add funding to their business basically as a loan broker. They monetize that and solve their customers' problems. Because, like, I talk to so many CPAs, their number one problem is someone saying, hey, Mr. CPA, I need funding. And they're like, did you try Bank of America? And knowing that they're not going to get anything, right? And now we're empowering them. Or the other option is someone kind of doing this, making enough money to quit their job or build a retirement nest egg, and over time invest into some of these deals. Like, we call it syndication, right? So you do a lot of deals. Let's say in our community, we have people who started out with zero, and they're now averaging 30, 40K per month in commissions, and their lifestyle needs are only 10, 15K. What do you do with the rest of the money? Well, you can go buy real estate and do a bunch of stuff, or you invest in the industry that you have. You can start funding some of these deals yourself. So you become a lender, learn their culture, right? So you went from a side hustler to full-time lender over time. Like, that gives you that flexibility. That's what my definition of business loan broker is and what we teach people. But basically, you're the middle guy or the girl helping people get the transaction done. So they're happy. It's a win for them. It's a win for the lender. They deploy their capital, and it's a win for you because you made a commission between.
Okay. So it sounds like a very active income business as a business loan broker. Now, once you make enough money to maybe start funding deals, obviously there could be some passive income in that conversation. But as a business loan broker, is there any like elements of it that has any kind of passive income attached, or is it strictly like you're just going to make the money when you make the commission, or I call it being business Cupid. So like once you successfully been business Cupid, transaction happens, that's when you make your money, right?
We have active income, like you said, transaction happens, you get paid. You work for it, you got paid. That's the active income. We have the repeat income, meaning that the person you funded will probably need funding in the future, and we can automatically fund those people. So that's your repeat income, not residual, but as the funding happens, but you're not as involved or you're not involved at all, because we keep a tap on those people and say, hey, you're like a year into your loan, you're paying it off nicely. Elijah, do you have any expansion plans or growth plans? Do you need more capital? We deploy more capital and pay you again. Residual income is some of the funding options. For example, if you put someone on a credit monitoring program so they can make sure that their credit is secure, there's no fraud going on, and their credit is protected, and they know their score, that pays the repeat income. We have funding options that, not repeat income, residual. We have another funding option that pays residual, which is invoice factoring. So think of someone who does work for, I don't know, let's take a fencing company, right? So they got a project from the school system, and they're going to put a fence around the school, and the project is $150,000. The school is not going to put it on a credit card or do a direct deposit. They're going to give you a check, either an electronic check or like a paper check, saying that it's net 30, net 60, or net 90, meaning that you have the money, but you're going to have to wait 60 days, 90 days to cash it. The problem for the fencing company is that they already did the work. It took 10 guys to do the work, and they have to make the payroll every Friday, right? So how are they going to pay the employees, knowing that money is there, but it's not reachable until 90 days? So they use an invoice factoring company to get the money, and then they're going to lose a couple of percentage of the total amount. And every time they get a check and do that, we have members in our community who's making like $10,000, $15,000 a month on that residual. They connected those people, and they get a lot of those like future checks. That creates the residual opportunity. So going back to what you said, you have active income, you have repeat income, and you have residual income. Like I don't really use the word passive income because nothing is 100% passive. Like you're a business owner, you got to still talk to your contacts and your customers and things like that. So, but if you're talking about repeat income, residual income, there are opportunities to build that as well.
One of my mentors, Roberto, he calls it automated income. So that'll probably be more applicable here.
Absolutely. Right? Because the passive income is such a overused term. Like people associate it with, I'm going to do nothing and make money, right? So that's very difficult to do. Even if you're going to do it, you're going to have to put in years of work to master something. So you do nothing basically, but you've done a lot of work already, invested in yourself. But repeat and residual is like a more transparent way to say it. You don't have to put in the same amount of work. You can kind of set it and kind of forget it and manage the relationship. And that customer stays with you, you still get paid. But yeah, so automated way is the way to put it because it is kind of automated.
Is your fear of personal finance holding you back from going after what you want? What if I told you there was a way to get rid of your insecurities? Every person has their own way of making money, budgeting style, and a way of spending money. The key to financial success is the ability to use the right styles for you that ensure success. So rather than making you focus on avoiding your emotions, this book focuses on empowering them and using them to achieve what you want. Learn how to build and increase the income streams you desire. Understand how to budget your money in a way that you are always moving forward financially. Know how to remove the stress from spending money by knowing what works best for your personality. Learn methods to effectively evaluate a financial opportunity within minutes to see if it's right for you. The Anatomy of Financial Success, the key to building financial confidence and destroying insecurities about money. Buy now. Available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback.
Right. Okay. Now, what you mentioned, this is a good segue into this next question. Now I will admit these next few questions, I shared, even though I don't use debt heavily. I respect this function in society, but I'm gonna take on the hat of someone who's more so anti-debt, because there are actually a lot of people who start a business. I have a lot of I call them one-person businesses that listen to the channel, and I'm a one-person business too,
Sure.
and they'll be kind of like anti-debt. Like I don't feel like I need debt to do what I need to do. So I'm gonna kind of take on that hat for a sec. And those people would ask, like, do you feel like small business loans are needed in order to expand or get established nowadays?
I say my statement on that is pretty straightforward. If you're not clear on how you're going to use the money to grow, don't take the damn money. A lot of people just want to kind of fish for money. Oh, it'll be great if I can get 50K. Then we're like, what are you going to do with it? Oh man, I would do so many stuff. That's not an answer. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, imagine I give you 50K. Are you going to use it on marketing? I would do marketing. What kind of marketing? I don't know. I'll figure it out. No, you're going to waste it. You got to kind of know, right? It comes from like a better business ownership. Yeah, sometimes looking at the numbers, the lender might give you the money, but a lot of business owners have actually no clue what they're going to do with the money, right? So if you get access to capital, if you know how to deploy it and use it, yeah, you can 3x, 5x. Also, you need to consider how much the capital is costing you, right? So like let's say if I know how to do marketing, and I go to Elijah, the business loan broker, and I tell him I need 50K. He gives me 50K, and it costs me 60K to buy that, basically, with interest and stuff, right? So I'm going to get 50K, but when I pay it back, it's going to be 60K. Do I know with a certain level of certainty that I'm going to make back at least 60K with my marketing? Or am I just winging it and hoping that I'm going to make it? That's when you get in trouble. I think that's what in the beginning of the call, I didn't really introduce myself as like a loan broker guy, more like financial literacy. You got to kind of have a plan before you take the debt. It usually, for most businesses, works the other way around. Like, let me get the money and I'll figure out what to do. You won't, buddy. Like, you're just going to waste it. Like, invest in yourself, understand what the clear plan is. If you're going to hire a marketing agency, interview marketing agencies and check their track record. Do they understand your industry? Have they do they have success stories in that industry, right? If you're going to buy the inventory, negotiate to find out is it worth negotiating versus how much you're going to pay back on interest and funding. So you got to do your work before you get the money. Then you're like, oh shoot, I have $100,000 sitting in my bank account. Let me go buy this equipment without even understanding. Like, you see where I'm going with this? Like, it's the other way around. Businesses, yeah, that debt becomes bad debt if you don't know what the heck you're going to do with the money. But if you're super crystal clear on what it is, you don't have to be super crystal clear, but at least you have a specific plan, and that money is going to be used for that purposes only, then do it. Or it could be the emergency. You somehow get yourself in trouble, something breaks, and you need to make the payroll. Am I going to lose the business, or am I going to get some kind of debt to survive this cycle so I can make it back, right? So you can use it for that purpose too. A lot of times we hear people, oh man, if I had another truck in my trucking company, I would have added another 50K in clean income next year, in the next 12 months. All right, why you're not buying another truck then? Oh, it's a big risk. You got to make up your mind. Are you pretty confident that you're going to make 50K? Or is it just a pie in the sky and you don't really know for sure and the debt scares you, right? So like the saying goes, timid salesperson have skinny kids. Sometimes you got to have you got to be a little brave, but it has to come with like a little bit of knowledge base, not just oh yeah, let's see, cross the fingers and let's see what happens. So I agree with you that debt could be bad, but I don't think it's because of the debt that you're taking. It's because you might not really be clear on what you're going to do with that debt, because you're going to have to pay it back at some point, right? So it's going to come back. What are we doing with it?
I have a saying: the indecisive shouldn't speculate.
True, 100%.
What if you make wrong decisions and then you're speculating? Then you're going to have a big problem.
Yeah. Amen to that. Love that. Yeah. Yeah. So you got to, that's why like you can't apply and decide first what it is. Again, sometimes you just have to have it because it's a matter of a decision of whether you're going to survive or not. Then it's survival, and the money is going to be expensive. Probably you just bite the bullet. If you want to keep going, you deal with it. But other times it doesn't take a lot of planning. If you're running a cafe and you're going to buy an espresso machine and it costs $10,000, And you got to be able to know from neighborhood like cafes how much of the espresso they're selling. Like you can do that research with ChatGPT, the hypothetical simulations and things like that to figure out if that's going to make the impact in your business that you think is making, versus saying it would be cool to have it. Let's buy it and see what happens. Well, then I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know either, you know?
At that point, that's even worse than speculating. That's gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if someone, let's say if someone wants to come to you and they need a loan for, well, I was going to give it a certain example as a business, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Or you can tell me in this example, but what does the approval process look like when someone comes to you and they need a loan for their business venture, whether it's established business, this is a small business, but established business, or maybe a new business? What's the approval process look like? Like what do y'all look at as alternative lenders?
Yeah, so our funding process is usually 24 to 48 hours. So from application to funding, we can put money in somebody's account in 48 hours, sometimes as short as 24 hours. That's an emergency type of funding. But if they have more time, then we can look into SBA funding and different funding options. But if they need it like today or yesterday, that's the process. As far as like how it happens, we ask 5-6 key questions. So the time in business, as long as they're in business for a minimum of a month and generating revenue, that qualifies for the most part. Monthly revenue, for most funding options, we need 10,000 or more per month over the past 2-3 months, right? If they're in business for a month, that's okay. But put yourself in the shoes of our underwriters, Elijah. So you have your own money, $1 million in the bank, and you're going to lend it out. Would you give it to yourself? Like, that's what I tell people, right? So would you offer it to yourself? So time in business, monthly revenue, how much is needed, and what are you going to do with the money? And the personal credit score. We don't always need the personal credit score. Like if somebody's credit is shot, we have to lean on the business revenue, because we have to lean on something, right? Because most of our funding is not collateralized based, unlike the banks. Banks would need your home, your car, something to tie the losses to, potential losses. With us, almost none of our funding options are based on collateral. So we have to lean on two things. Either you have stellar credit, stellar meaning 720 and above. So we're going to use the personal credit only to get you funding. If that's not an option, then we got to look at the business. So do you have a cash flowing business? Even if you have thin margins, we can give an offer based on that, right? So let's say you're doing $30K a month, we might be able to offer $20K, and that might do the job for you. Or you might do $30K, but everything else looks great. We might offer $60K or $70K. So the average deal is about $50,000 to $60,000 on those emergency type of fundings. Unlike business lines of credits and SBA, those go up to like $250K. But usually the process for that could be a week to 2 weeks, right? So we go from 24 hours to a couple of weeks. So that's the process. But no matter what the situation is, we always need to know the time in business, monthly revenue, how much is needed, what are you going to do with the money, and what is your credit score. Once we have that, that's going to allow us to quickly underwrite and get back to you saying that these are the options that we have. Which one seems like the better option for the current problem that you're having? If it is the speed, then yeah, it's going to be an expensive money because we're trying to put money in your account tomorrow. But if it is like, yeah, I need to buy my competition, or I need to expand to the next building, do a construction project, you have more time. So that allows us to get more creative.
Gotcha. Because a few months ago, I met it is in the real estate industry, but I met a hard money lender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she kind of described the process, kind of similar to what you mentioned. How, like, look, if you need it, if you're trying to fund a real estate deal and you need it within a month, I mean, not a month, within like a week, maybe even less. Yeah, that's going to be more expensive than like, hey,
sure,
I need this deal funded within the next 30 days. The faster the better. But if it takes like 28 days, that's fine.
Sure,
then there'll be more better options that can be offered.
Absolutely. You're basically paying for speed, right? So you're wanting the money. That's why the saying in our industry is that you want to get funding when you don't need it. So get set up with a business line of credit. You draw on it if you need it, but when you do need it, then usually your finances doesn't look the best. You're struggling for a while, then it's going to impact how much you pay in interest, right? But if your business is going well, we set up a lot of restaurants with business line of credit. There's no cost to them, but if they have an approved for 250,000, it can stay there. But let's say they need to, replace all of their POS systems or like change the furniture and whatever, they can draw on it without waiting for the funding, right? So the best time to request money is when you don't need it. You have it on the side, like as a formal line of credit, so you're not paying interest. But when you draw on it, that's when you actually start paying. That's how you protect yourself. That's why in the beginning of the conversation, when we're talking about whether debt is good or bad, it has to do, as probably by now your audience can see what I mean by that, right? It has to do with how you position it, how you plan it. You need to have a plan in business, because anything that can go wrong in business will go wrong. Like just how business is, right? You wake up, it's like, it was great last month. What the heck happened this month? It will happen, I guarantee you, right? It's like, it's like the least predictable thing, especially when you're trying to grow the business in your first couple of years. You have less predictability. So your financial preparedness means a lot for survival and growth. But look at the failure rate on businesses, Elijah, right? Like the people throw a lot of numbers, 80, 85%, depending on, you're going into business knowing that. So you're trying to be the outlier. Like you're trying to be the top 10% or 15% who survives. So it is in your best interest to generate sales. Be like, as Mark Cuban says, sales fixes it all, right? You got to start selling. Like you got to sell your product, but as they're buying it, don't get comfortable. And that's where I agree with Dame Ramsey, that stay below your means. Like just because you had a great month, don't go buy a Lamborghini, because you don't know what the next month is going to look like. Have the fiscal discipline while your focus is entirely on selling more of whatever the heck you're selling. But meanwhile, you want to have the financial backing in case something totally goes belly up. In business, it could at some point. It's not a matter of if or when. Then you're like, quickly fix the issue and go back to what it is. That's how scaling is. Like look at Amazon. They were not profitable for like a decade. And then it took that much to build a at this point, almost like $1 trillion company, right? So all that debt. Yeah, I know we're not building Amazon here, but the financial principles still apply. Principles do not change.
Right. Yeah. And I forgot to mention this when we were talking about like, I was going to say Shark Tank came out around the same time when the banks started getting stingy with their money, ironically. But another way of looking at all this is, if you were to qualify to go on Shark Tank, do you feel like you would get a deal? And if the answer is no, you got some research to do. Because I've seen plenty of people go on the show, they don't know the numbers, and they get ripped apart and ridiculed and kicked out. And rightfully so. So that's a good measuring stick, audience.
Yeah, you nailed it, Elijah. Like think about it. Like before Shark Tank, all of these negotiations were not open to public, right? You would go to your VC firm and they would grill you. You were gonna come out crying, but no one knew how these negotiations went. See how valuable this is? Like they're asking specific numbers. Even if you watch like 2 episodes and you're a business owner and you're like, oh shit, I don't know that number as well. Yeah, you got to know that number, right? So there's a reason why these billionaires are asking for those numbers, because it's important to your business, right? I think that's the biggest contribution of Shark Tank to society, is teaching us how these, rich people think when it comes to investing. So they're grilling those people that there's a show element, but your cost per lead, cost per acquisition, your sales model, how long does it take for you to turn a prospect into a sales? You got to know all of these numbers, and then they will consider, because they don't want to deal with a founder who's kind of lost and they just chase this dream with no numbers, right? So whether you're selling coffee beans or ballpoint pen, you got to know your numbers. Doesn't really matter. Like if you're running this, even if it's a side hustle, the one saying I really like is, if you treat it like a hobby, it pays you like a hobby, and hobbies don't pay a lot. Right? Even if you're doing side hustle, you got to take it seriously, because honestly, that side hustle could beat your main income in most cases. That you just got to give it a chance. But learning the financial literacy and business ownership, and in this day and age, if you don't know how to look at the numbers, like you have no excuse. Like you have so many, like you can type it in YouTube, like how to understand the numbers of a business. You'll learn it in like half an hour, and then you can apply it to your business.
Or nowadays,
ChatGPT, whatever you're using. The tools change, but the principles are the same.
Yeah. On the Shark Tank tip, especially Mr. Wonderful, he'll use that terminology. Is it a dog? We'll take it out the back. You need to take it out the back and shoot it.
It sounds harsh, but people don't want to hear stuff like that, right? So like sometimes I listen to someone, I'm like, oh, I'm working on this business. It's going well. It's going to get, when you start asking specific questions, they have no answer. You feel like saying, you got to take it to the back of the barn and shoot it, man. Like this is, you're going to, and you don't want to, he has the guts to say it, that sometimes you feel bad because somebody is dream. But as adults, sometimes if your mentor doesn't wake you up from that dream, it's going to turn into a nightmare a year from now, right? So someone needs to give you that jolt saying, dude, Elijah, you're a smart dude, but this ain't going to work, man. Like, come on, like we gotta have a talk about this.
Right. So circling back to the business loan broker side, well, I don't know, you can tell me, but I was going to ask you, like, what's the number one reason you feel like a business doesn't get approved for a loan nowadays? But I mean, in the alternative lending space, but have, like you said, you can probably offer several options. They'll just be more limited options based on what's going on. But have you encountered some scenarios where, like, it's just so, there's just nothing you can do right now? Like, either the business isn't making enough revenue and their credit score is shot, or whatever that scenario is. Have you ever encountered that where you can't give them anything? And what do you feel?
Oh, yeah.
What do you say to that person?
Yeah, great question. Well, there's a reason we do underwriting, right? So sometimes you come across situations that they would be approved, but they're not in a position to pay it back. Like you look at the bank statements, you're like, all right, so at the end, yeah, you made $40K this month, but you spent $41K. And that's a problem. Or there's like a $2,000 profit, but that's going to be cutting it really close to pay it off. Then at that point, as the underwriter, you're kind of gambling. Do I give this money and have the risk of default? That's usually that. Or some people stack debt, which is very dangerous. Sometimes we see bank statements that they have like 4 positions, 3 positions. That business is going down, right? So they're now shuffling to manage debt by getting more debt. Sounds like U.S. economy, but that's just how it is.
Sounds like a debt consolidation commercial.
Yeah, right. So you see situations like that, we stay away from it because that person is in the habit of getting debt and not. It tells a story, right? When you look at somebody's bank account and you see like 4 merchant cash advances, I'm going to be number 5, and then like that. This person obviously is not good at utilizing capital to save the business. So in cases like that, that's a no-go. So we look at the story of the business, similar to, like you said, the origin story. So the documentation shows us the health of the business, and then we just tell them, hey man, like at this point, honestly, there's not much we can do. Or let's say we can't fund the business, we want to fund the individual, but their credit score is like 650, which is not necessarily horrible, but it's not really fundable. Then we tell them, hey, why don't you just join like a credit repair program? We have credit repair programs. So in a couple of months, we'll get you probably boosted to like 720, 730. Then we can do the funding. So you can put them in like a continuity program to fix the issue so they're funding ready over time. So those are the points that we decline it. It's like we got to lean on something to fund it, right? So if all of these legs of the funding options are broken, we advise them to fix it, but sometimes it's just not fixed, and we tell them, sorry, so we can't help you.
Then you point them to a possible solution if there is one, like, hey, your credit score is just kind of average, but if it was in the good category, we could work with you. Here's this program that can help with that.
Absolutely, yeah. So that way they go through either a do-it-yourself, like join a course and apply it yourself, but if they don't have the history of being able to follow through with that, done for you, done with you, so someone can go through and kind of either fight it or help them pay down some of the things, like, and then in a couple of months they'll be ready. The options will open up. So that's, business owner needs to keep an open mind to it. There are usually solutions for most situations. The situations that we stay away from is if the merchant is straight up lying. They tell us something, but the statements say something else, or there's the business we can see that it's not going to exist in 6 months from now because of the debt cycle,
Okay. In order to fund the business, do they have to be incorporated? Do they have to have an LLC or S corp, or could they be a sole proprietorship and not have incorporated yet? Or
so if they want business funding, they need to have a business checking account, and for you to have a business checking account, you need to be incorporated, right? Some kind of LLC, because that's what the banks require. But if you're just starting out, and you need startup capital, then you don't need to. We base it on your credit score and get you credit-based funding. So it could be 50,000, 100,000, and then you can use that money to set up your LLC, buy whatever you need to buy to start the business. So we fund both types of people. But if they tell us, I'm not incorporated, I don't have a business checking account yet, no sales, then we go after basically the personal credit score of the person, either to improve that so they're fundable, or if they're already good, then provide the funding based on that. Okay.
Because there are some people, it's popular among people with like one-person businesses. If they do, they may be incorporated, or they may not just do anything, or they may just get a DBA doing business as, and that's enough to open a business checking account, but they don't have an LLC. They're still a sole proprietorship. So under all those scenarios, you can still offer funding provided they qualify.
Absolutely. Yeah, as long as they have a business checking account. We see a lot of people who still operate a business under the personal checking account. We can't fund it. That's like a personal account. It has to be a business checking account if you want funding for your business. But if it's okay if none of that exists yet, because sometimes, like especially the Hustler Society, right? So they're going to start out as an independent contractor and sell first and figure it out later. That's perfectly fine. Then we're going to look for other ways to provide the funding.
Okay. Makes sense. So what advice, and it could be as a business loan broker, or it could just be as an entrepreneur, but what advice would you want to give to people who are currently like a one-person business? Because we got a lot of tradespeople work on it who would watch the show. It might be a graphic designer, a video editor, maybe someone has a lawn caring service or something like that, but they're a one-person business. Do you have any advice that you would just want to give to them?
Yeah, not so much on the funding end, because that's like, we can look at it, but as a business, definitely invest in anything that teaches you marketing and sales. Like a lot of people, like when you see people that are really, really successful, a lot of times they're not successful in business because they're better than you. They're just better at marketing and sales, right? And then even if like, I live in this home and we hire people to do lawn work and things like that. And you see some people that are more qualified, but they don't have a systematic way of offering their services. Like this person is hard work. You can tell that is an honest, hardworking person, but they kind of suck at sales and marketing. So I think that's what a lot of businesses suffer from, like not understanding it. They just trust that if I'm doing a good job, is this going to be enough? It's not going to be enough. Okay. It's not a fair world. So definitely invest in learning marketing and definitely have a sales process, whether you're selling lawn care services or selling door to door. It is so important. Like I can tell stories of, because my background is door to door sales and telemarketing and things like that. Once you kind of break the code on sales, like the sales process, things get a lot easier. So I think most people don't have a delivery or product quality problem. They just don't know how to market themselves better.
Nicely put. I forgot which one of Robert Kiyosaki's books. It might have been Before You Quit Your Job. But the quote, now I'm kind of paraphrasing, but essentially, a person who knows how to sell can raise income.
Absolutely.
Once you can raise income, you can pretty much solve any problem financially, because you can hire the appropriate person to either do it or give you the expertise on how to do it.
Sale cures it all, right? So if you're stuck, my mentor used to say it. You have bills to pay? Good. Go sell shit. Like go out there and
I like that.
But instead of sitting down and creating a sob story, oh, I have like financial issues and stuff like that. All right, good. You have a motivation. You don't need to figure out your why. Just go out there and sell stuff, right? So whatever it is that you're selling is not just for like the closers. Just like you got even to get a job, you have to sell yourself. Interview process is a sales process. Using LinkedIn to find people to hire you is a sales process. If you truly suck at it and you're great at what you do, it's not going to make a lot of difference because people are not going to be like, yeah, out of the 1,000 people. Like it's funny. We recently created some job posts on LinkedIn. Within 2 days, 450 people applied. I'm not going to take time to find out like who's amazing out of those. And I'm going to start with people who do an amazing job following up, following through, getting in front of me, right? They're going to get the priority because as the CEO, I don't have time to personally get to know each person to find out, oh, this is the truly like a golden talent. Like that's their job to sell themselves to me, right? So when we say sale, it scares some people. Oh, I'm not a salesperson. Well, I can tell from your income that you're not. Like you just gotta. Sorry to be a little rough, but that's just how it is. You got to be able to sell yourself.
Here's something that's pretty interesting. People say that you can follow up with, well, do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? They say, yeah. Well, clearly you do have some sales in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a significant other.
Yes.
or a relationship with the opposite sex. You had to sell yourself at some point.
Yes.
So why can't you find the product or service that you're passionate about and apply those same principles to selling it to someone else and make some money?
And there's no shame in it, man. I think there's a lot of negative mantra on like the sales process, like like I got to feed my family. Right. And if it is going to take for me to convince someone to buy my product, as long as you're selling an ethical product, it is kind of my duty. And then I recently went to Alex Hormozi and Layla Hormozi's office. Like I get coaching from them. Layla has this big poster on the wall and it says, no one gives a shit about your feelings. Go do some work. Right.
All these you're throwing some very like relatable, like direct quotes in this show. I love it.
Right. Because people are so in tune. I feel like this and I feel like that. Like, yeah, I appreciate it. But at the end of the day, no one told us life is going to be fair. Okay. So like you want your fair share, but you got to kind of fight for it. You're kind of fighting against the odds. Okay. So the people who make $1 million or more a year, they're in the top 1%. That means they put behind 99% of the people. And that means they've done things differently than the 99% of the people. So if you have ambitious goals of financial freedom and you're not willing to go out of your way and break like your pattern, you're just not going to get there. And if you carry things like my emotions are stopping me or I don't feel right about this thing, I'm sorry, you're going to have to stay at the bottom 50% because like Layla says, no one cares about your feelings because business world is really, really competitive. You got to do things even if you don't like doing it. Like, let's be honest. Or don't set those ambitious goals. Like if you want to make additional 2-3K, no one's going to ask you to go out of your way and just work as if you're a millionaire. You just got to do enough and you can still be fine. The conflict is when people want to have Elon Musk level goals, but they have an operating system that deserves 40K per year income. Like you see that the gap is like so difficult to close.
Yeah. That's actually a great, I'm going to stop saying great segue because we're just flowing. But we just got done talking about sales. So how does one become a business loan broker with your business, the Business Lending Blueprint?
Yeah, we have a lot of free content. I have over 500 videos on our YouTube channel. So if they type in my name, Oz Konar, they can kind of self-educate themselves on the opportunity and on what we do. And then if you're interested in doing it through us, because when you decide to become a business loan broker on your own, yeah, people are smart enough to figure it out. It's not that complicated of a business. The problem usually is having access to important lenders, like critical lenders. Lenders are not in the training industry. They don't want to take a brand new broker and train them. So we cover that gap, right? So if you want to expose yourself to multiple funding options and have access to the people who can fund it, you will need a system for that. But if you have a couple of deals and you want to just Google some lenders and reach out to them, you can do that. But even for that, you need some level of knowledge. So I highly suggest that you check out all the free content that we have, or they can go to our website, businesslendingblueprint.com. They can schedule a call with our team to go through like a demo of what we do and decide if it is a good fit or not. There's an investment involved, so then you can decide if you have the budget for it, if you think it's worth it or not. If it is not, just hopefully you like my videos and you can like it and comment it, and I respond to all, comments myself. But yeah, that's what I can say. At least check out how it works, so you're informed about this super niche industry that you might not ever hear again. Honestly, it's not very common. It's not like an Amazon or crypto or investing business. Like, no one wakes up thinking about becoming a business loan broker. But when you hear it in a podcast like this, hopefully that you just we were able to talk about things that kind of make sense for you to kind of look into it further. Then ultimately you're an adult and you can make your own decision to see if this is something that excites you. If it doesn't, don't do that.
Right, and we'll leave links to his YouTube channel and also his website in the description and the pinned comment for y'all to check out.
Awesome.
So, since we're on that topic, what have you found is the best way? Let's say someone does get started with you and they get laced up, so they become a business loan broker. What is the best way for them to start generating like some decent or quality leads for their new business?
Yeah, definitely referral partners, people who have access to your leads. We teach our brokers different ways to generate leads: online, offline, events, paid advertising. But I talk a lot about how I built the business, basically by becoming friends with accountants and bank managers and bank employees, right? We talked about the difficult situation because bank manager is not this evil person. They're working, and the banks is a corporation making those decline decisions, right? But they're the ones, first line of defense to kind of go in and tell the customer that they can't help him, right? So I made a habit of building relationships through networking events, going to Chamber of Commerce with those bank employees and managers. So we focused on their turndowns. Hey, if you have someone, Joe the construction company, show up to your branch and you can fund them, you can just refer them over to it. We'll gladly provide funding to him, right? Same thing with the accounting community. Like, I don't know any accountant who wants to, close down their accounting firm and become a business loan broker, but some of them serve like thousands of small businesses who need funding. And that can be a revenue source for them, or B, a value add partnership to their customer base, right? Because they have the books. Like, they will help the customer decide if that funding option is good for them or not. So if there are, again, so many different ways to generate leads, because when you think about the numbers, Elijah, there are over 34 million small businesses in the US. These are small businesses. And about 2,000 to 4,000 of them are being formed every single day. So the pool of people who might need funding is just incredible. But the easiest way to do that is just build some relationship-based marketing, like talking to people. Hey, do you have anyone who needs funding? I can help them. I can return the favor by paying you a commission. Like, for example, bankers cannot accept commissions from you, but it could be gifts. Like, you can, take them out to lunch or something like that, or give them some kind of gift, because they'll gladly help you, because then they're in trouble. They want to save those customers going from another bank because they're pissed right now.
Right. That's a valid point. Pretty soon we're going to start winding down the show, but given the industry you're in, I got to ask this question. So, like, what's the craziest story or thing that you've encountered in this business or industry?
When I was doing like door-to-door in-person sales, someone reached out to the company, booked a call. I was selling like payroll and credit card processing and stuff like that. And they set up a meeting. I looked at the meeting place. It was a house. I'm like, all right, maybe they operate out of their homes, right? I go there, knock on the door. A lady shows up, and she said, all right, the boss is waiting for you in the house. I'm like, cool. I grab my bag and go in. And she says, he's actually downstairs. And I look at downstairs from those scary movies, like the dark basement type of thing.
Oh, man.
Down there. She's like, yeah, just go down there. I'm like, oh, I don't feel good about this. And I just go down, and I'm like, oh, man, this is getting darker and darker. I go down there, and it's like unfinished basement. And this dude is like sitting on a chair, basically, right? And then as I went down, I see the door closing behind me, the lady, and she didn't come down.
Some horror movie stuff.
I'm like, all right, yeah, this is interesting. And the guy has on each side has these Doberman dogs, like one each, right? Like on leash, like.
What the hell?
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, sir, I noticed that you booked a call. Like, why wanted to show interesting choice for a meeting place, but how is everything going? He's like, here's how this is gonna go. Either you connect me to your boss and you give my money back, or you can't get out of here. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think you have the wrong person. At the time, my company I worked for was Paychex, the big payroll company, right? Apparently, this due to a lot of history with them. My manager didn't tell me, right? So the company made a mistake on payroll. I don't know who's right or who's wrong. Like, I'm just a sales guy, right? I show up. This dude is like, you guys made a mistake. I lost a lot of money. Now they don't even answer my phone, and I wanted to sue them. So basically, you're going to get on the phone with your boss until I get my money back. I'm like, so you're taking me hostage? Then what happens? Like, you're just going to kill me if that's the case? He's like, no, it can go either way. So we just need you to get you on the phone. And I'm trying to call my boss, but we're in the basement. There's no reception.
There's no signal.
I'm like, dude, this is like a death trap. I can't win this. Like, can I go up and make a phone call? It's like, no, you can't. And you can use the phone. He had like a landline, I guess. I called my boss. I'm like, hey, there's a situation. I'm with Mr. This and this. And I'm like, yeah, I need a little bit of help. And anyways, they jumped on the phone. He let me go. But it was like a really, really scary experience. Like, I've been through a lot as a salesperson, but this was like, I just couldn't tell if he was actually serious or not. You remember, like, when you're dealing with like a psychopath, you can tell if they're going to just kill you or they're just bluffing. You're there totally defenseless. Like, how bad is this situation that you're gonna risk letting your dogs eat me, basically, right? So I know maybe you were expecting for like a fun story, but I have a scary one. That's been it was resolved.
Well, it fits the category of crazy pretty well.
It's crazy, yes.
Well, it's someone who's done door to door. We all have stories, but I wasn't expecting that. I think that definitely takes the cake. Wow.
Yeah. Well, obviously I survived. I'm here, but it left a lot of scars about going to people's homes. Yeah.
So, like, in the future, like, did you have any other calls that were scheduled at someone's home? Like, I don't know. After the last time, I think I'm good.
Well, I started bringing a system with me, so tag team started tag teaming me, and I always check with the admin person the history of the client. Like, if it is like a past client and whatever, there's a disagreement, I would just alert my manager saying that either you're coming with me or I'm not going, dude. I'm not your problem solver. I'm a sales guy. I just want to generate sales. But the fact that I just didn't know enough. I was like, what, 22 at that point? I'm like hungry, hustle. Like, I'm going to go get some sales. Almost gotten eaten by dogs. So, yeah.
Wow. Audience in the comments, drop a comment. What do y'all think of that story? And what were y'all done in that situation? And while you're down there, if you can hit a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, greatly appreciate it. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Oh, gosh. That kind of sounds like the plot of a movie, to be honest. I can see someone making even if it was a short movie, someone making a movie out of that.
Yeah, for salespeople only. Yeah, like that would have a lot of salespeople quit the job altogether.
Or consider not getting involved in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they'll be selling from their computer, like that door-to-door stuff. No, I'll cold call.
Oh, dude, door-to-door stuff is you come up. I mean, I can tell. I can write a book on that.
If you do write a book, let me know. I'll be sure to pick it up.
Sure thing. Yes.
Okay, Oz. Well, like I said, we're winding down, but I do like to ask my guests if they have any questions they want to hit me with. So do you have any questions you want to ask me?
Yeah, what are you trying to accomplish?
I would say that I want to revert the world back to what it used to be. What I mean by that, the employee model that we have historically is a relatively new phenomenon.
Mm.
It was created because the country was at war a lot, and they needed to produce a scenario where people would just follow orders, and in turn, they would get paid for it. So it's kind of like chattel. But before that, people were freelance. What they were what's known today as a freelancer or independent contractor. They had their trade, they had their skill, and they would make money with that trade or skill. They brought value to their community with that trade or skill. But that means they had a seat at the table as far as like hey, how much am I going to make? Well, I want to make this. Oh, well, this is a service I offer. So if I want to make more money, I have to add more services on top of that, or be at the top of my game when it comes to that service. So they actually had a seat at the table. Now, I'm not going to say you don't have a seat at the table as an employee, because if you know what you're doing, you can actually negotiate as an employee too, like a higher salary. But that's not typical. It requires a more specialized skill set. And even then, if you are a freelancer, you'll still have more leverage. Like, think about it like this. There's a job position. You go in as an employee and try and negotiate. Maybe you'll get it, maybe you don't. But you go in there as a freelancer, it's already assumed that you probably are going to try and negotiate. So there's a range that they're willing to pay you versus there's an amount they're willing to pay you as an employee. And not only that, but you can negotiate the terms too, because you're a freelancer, you're a contractor, you're an independent contractor. So, okay, I'm not going to be getting paid benefits because I'm not an employee. So that means ultimately I'm going to be cheaper for y'all. So how about we increase my rate since I'm not going to be getting paid any benefits? So I'll be getting paid more than the job position offers. And I want more favorable terms. Like, you require your employees to come in the office, like, I don't know, 20 to 30 hours a week. Maybe for me, 10 hours a week, or maybe not at all, as long as I'm getting y'all the results that y'all need. And you can have it so that, well, this is a year contract. We can renegotiate this contract if everything is working well for us in about a year. And if everything is working well, you can look at renegotiating that contract. And of course, you should be increasing your rate. All this is, you have a seat at the table in the decision-making process of how much you get paid. All this goes over people's head if they're just an employee. I want people to have the skill set of being a freelancer to fall back on. And they can choose to do that full-time if they want, but they'll sleep much better if they know how to be a freelancer. And that's the ultimate piece away from getting potentially fired. Like, oh, well, I'll just do what I'm doing full-time for myself and probably make more money. So
that's very interesting. So it's like a results-based consultancy model that you want more people to be aware of instead of selling their hours.
Oh yeah, especially I was gonna say the per hour stuff is such a trap. But the crazy thing is, once you start getting too far in the employee world, you even lose that. You get on the salary stuff, which is even worse.
Yeah, true. Because then you totally lose the control of your income, right? Your ability to generate additional income, because then you're at the mercy of someone. I would say it's a worthy goal to go after. That's for sure. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, but one step at a time. And that's why this is called a side hustler society, because it's so amendable once you have a skill set. I'm not saying you got to do any of this stuff. You could just develop your trader skill. Then you know how to learn how to sell. And you could do that on the side. Eventually, you could turn that into a full-time business if you want. Or you could use that as negotiating leverage in the typical job scenario to get a more favorable situation for you. But the point is, you have the knowledge and the skills to make all these options. And especially right now, it's a liability just to be an employee.
True.
You need more.
I
honestly think things are reverting back to how they used to be because employers are getting too expensive. And you want to be ahead of the curve.
And there's a lot of outsourcing going on too, right? So the companies don't want W-2 employees, and then hiring a 1099 in the US is like a tricky thing. If you're if you're treating them like a W-2 employee, then they outsource it. Then someone who was in America lost the whole thing basically because they didn't know the consultancy model, like the better of both worlds. Yeah, I see that a lot happening. A lot of that happening on LinkedIn. People are applying for jobs for like a year and not hearing back. And a lot of these companies are just outsourcing to sometimes better talent under more economical conditions,
Yeah. The only counter that is really just to develop the skills yourself and start networking locally. Because people do like to do business and work with people that they like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But they don't know you. So like, a stat on a paper is, if it's just going to be a stat on the paper starting out, then outsourcing is always going to look more appealing because they're cheaper. But if they met you and they see what type of person you are and they see the value you can bring to the company in more ways than one, not just your service, then you'll become more appealing. But you got to position yourself right, and you need those skill sets in order to do that.
I agree. And Elijah, let me know if you disagree with this. When it comes to this skill workers, what I come across a lot is that when people are trying to learn a sellable skill, before they offer it to anyone, they want to be the best in the world. So the preparation phase takes forever. But in my opinion, even if you're like 10% better than 1% of the population, that means you have enough customers to make a lot of money. You don't need to be the top 1%. Let's say, I don't know, let's take the dying industry of social media management because AI is taking over, right? Fine. But still, there's going to be a certain percentage of the population who's not going to use AI or will never even be able to know what AI is doing. They will still want to hire Oz, the social media manager. So you don't necessarily need to be better than AI or anybody else. As long as you're better than your average customer, you're, in the land of the blind, one-eye person is the king type of thing, right? So if you're serving customers who don't know anything about it and you're better than them, I think that stops a lot of people because they want to be the ultimate expert, knowing it all. They use it as an excuse for not kind of going out there making offers. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. What is the saying? I've got to say it, but it's the bold that often get ahead, not the smartest or the most prepared.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I would push back on a small degree. My pushback would mainly be like with the AI. I do think you should be better than what AI can do, but that's a low barrier to clear, to be honest. AI is so basic. If you can just be 10% better than AI, that's a good starting place. But that's not a reason to not go ahead and get started. I'm just saying have that be your initial goal, because there are people that don't want to learn AI, but they are going to gradually start dying off as things go. And the newer generations know how to use it. So it's like you want to be a little better than AI, but that's not a high threshold to hit, because AI does, like, let's take social media manager. Yeah, it can do it, but it does it so basically and so robotically, and it's missing the human emotional like element to it, right? So if you can just insert a little into that as a social media manager, hey, you're better than AI. But that's not a huge accomplishment. So just make sure you're a little better than AI.
Or augment AI into your knowledge base. Use AI to be better, because there, like you said, many people will not use AI. So as let's say let's take that, because I intentionally took that because a lot of social media marketing companies are in panic right now because of AI. So instead of losing your customers, use AI, augment it into your business. So like instead of AI only, become AI/human and take advantage of what AI could do, and whatever it can't do, the human connection part, you do it instead of saying David versus Goliath. Oh, AI is going to take my thing. It's like, use it to get better at it and take advantage of the opportunities from people who won't use it at all.
Yeah, like I agree with that, because you could use AI and it'll do 80% of the work, let's say, but the 20% that needs to be human and needs that connection, you just review what the AI did and make it sound less robotic, insert the human element back into it.
Sure.
Which isn't that hard to do. It's not going to take that much time.
No.
AI came up with the structure of what you need. That's what it took time.
Mm-hmm.
It came up with the overall structure. You make your human modifications, and that's already a lot better than what's out there on the market.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can do it twice as fast because AI did most of the work for you.
That's that. Yeah. Instead of creating an enemy, it reminds me of when the internet first came out, right? If people are like, oh, this is the end of humanity. And those who took advantage of it built super successful businesses, and those who fought against it went down, right? So we got to be open to change. AI is happening with you or without you. Like, you're not going to stop it. Well, if that's the case, then how do I use it to my advantage to improve myself, right? Faster than before. Like you said, it can still create the content planning, it can still write your copy and things like that. But people want to buy from other people, then you do the sales and have AI do partially the fulfillment. It's still like, I don't like this panic behavior of I'm going to lose my position. That's a lot of insecurities speaking, and then you're kind of fighting against the change. To go along with the change, it takes a lot more effort to swim against the current than going with the current instead of drowning in it, right? Like, just understand that it is happening, acknowledge that. Like, you denying, I see a lot of conversations on X whether AI is this strong, that strong. I don't think it serves you, dude. Like that's like whether, how good it is not your issue. It's like, how is it going to help you? Is it helping you? If you don't figure out a way to make it help you, then you're going to be pushed aside at some point by someone who can use it to help himself or herself. Do you agree with that?
I do. I'll say this: with great power comes great responsibility. Hit y'all with Spider-Man quote. Just don't use your newfound abilities with AI to create like this. Here's where I have a big problem with it. These like AI chatbot girlfriend and boyfriend stuff.
Yeah.
Like people are going to have some serious issues if they don't get that under control. Like
I think so too. Yeah. That's where you get into the dark side. That's where you get into the dark side, because when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's going to fulfill some crazy fantasies that some guys have. But at the same time, we're dealing globally like the lower birth rates than ever before and lower levels of testosterone on the guys. And on top of that, you have this fantasy AI girlfriend that you use it as a reason to not go out there and talk to other people, because I know it's challenging to date and go on dates. Like it pushes you out of your comfort zone. It is difficult for two individuals to get along and get under the same roof and make babies and stuff like that. But if you just take the path of least resistance, is like, yeah, my AI girlfriend does all of that type of thing. Like think about what kind of, I know everyone doesn't need to think about what happens to humanity, but we're on this downward trend already. Like the death rates or the longevity is much higher than the birth rates, right? Yeah, I'm not saying go make 15 babies, but also at the same time, like be cognizant of the change, right? Sometimes what seems to be easy might not be the best thing for you in long term.
Yeah, let's not have this turn into an episode of that Netflix show Black Mirrors.
I can go there, buddy. If you're willing to go there, I can go there.
Well, we can have a nihilism like 5 to 10 minutes towards the end of the show. What are your thoughts?
Everything will be okay. Everything will be fine as long as you put your head down and do your thing on a daily basis. Life has a funny way of rewarding people who are consistent. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. So even if you feel like you're not making much progress today, you said something great, like in the beginning of the show that we were recording, right? So like, hey, we're working. It was a productive month, and it's only the third of the month, but it was productive. I like that attitude a lot. Many people don't say that. It's like, oh man, this could happen. Yeah, dude, a lot could happen. In 1940s, people were dealing with World War II, and they truly felt like everyone was dying, right? And then they lost someone. Like we're talking about 15, 20 million people dead by the end of 1945. So we're not there, obviously. So one thing I will tell, no matter what's happening, just put your head down and do your work, man, like consistently on a daily basis, like 1% improvement, the compounding interest, right? So like it's good to have these outrageous discussions on what could happen and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, as an individual, I think our obligation to ourselves and our family and our own self-respect is to stay consistent. Don't just jump stuff, like start from scratch. Like that's okay to try different things, but a lot of people jump from one thing to another, like the bright shiny object syndrome, we call it, right? Oh, this looks better. Yeah, but you've given this like 30 days, dude. Like you're not going to see results in 30 days. Like stay with it. I think inconsistency is the biggest disease for entrepreneurs or even side hustlers. Like stay with something for a while, like, give your all. And then, yeah, just like anything big, like when you plant the seed, you don't see the lemon tree growing tomorrow. It takes time. It takes a lot of energy. But those who stay with it, they're going to have a garden full of them. Like that's the promise that I can give you, just to stay with it. Give yourself 90 days, 120 days, a year, and make sure that you're on the right vehicle, because you don't want to be, going the wrong direction, rowing full force. Like that's a lot. If you're on the wrong vehicle and rowing really, really hard, you're going to see signs like something is like not right. And that's when time to make a change. But when you make a change, just stay with it. Yeah, I think that's the positive end message that I can give everyone.
Well, that end message is very much appreciated, because we don't want to end on a dark note.
No. No. And there's no reason to be in the dark mode, since you can't control a lot of the stuff that's happening, right? You're responsible from your own life. And I don't think any one of us have the impact that we think we do. But if you want to have bigger impact, It just comes down to outworking everyone else. Honestly, there's no shortcut. Like if you want to make $1 million, $10 million, you got to outwork everyone else around you in some format, shape, or form. If you just put it to your mind, the stuff that you don't know right now, the doors will be open. Like I don't want to get esoteric, but a lot you just get lucky if you just work hard. You're not going to get lucky being a couch potato, you know?
Yeah, and ironically, a lot of people interpret working hard as like it's working hard in this like huge ending burst. And that's actually not even the case. Working hard is actually staying consistent.
Yes.
Just stay consistent. You're already going to be better than 80 to 90% of people.
100%. Because most people will quit, Elijah, right? No matter what we say here, I can talk here until I'm blue on the face. Most people will not be consistent. So you're not actually competing against most people. You're competing against the top 10% of the guys. And then if you end up there, life will be a lot more different, right? So most people quit. Most people are not even in the game, dude. Like, let alone like fighting. They're not even putting themselves in the game. So if you're already thinking about a side hustle, you're ahead of most people. Most people are like stuck in what they're doing. They're not listening to podcasts like this. They're not educating themselves. If you're doing this, know that you're ahead of a lot of people. Like you're not competing with them. But to get to the next level, you just got to stay. Like watch each episode of this and watch other stuff. But like do your daily routine. Like in our community, the number one thing I keep repeating for the past 10 years is that if you're doing marketing, pick one channel and do daily activity daily. Like daily activity means daily, right? Don't think that, oh, there's a Lineable. Oh, there's Facebook there too. Oh, Elijah came up with a new software. I should try it. No, stay on the darn path until you master it. Then you can expand into other stuff. If you do that, you're already ahead of like 90+% of the people. Okay, so that's like that you're on the right path. It's just the consistency is the most difficult game. Business, that's the most difficult part of business, honestly. Staying consistent and not getting distracted.
Nicely put. I think that's a great ending note. But you already shared your YouTube channel and also your website. But for people who want to get more of you, is there anywhere else that you feel that is there anywhere else that you want to send them to, whether it's Facebook or X or where they can get a hold of you?
No, YouTube is our main channel for information. If you're like made up your mind and you want to become a business loan broker, you can go to our website. Our website is designed to get you on our calendar so we can talk. But if you just want to either get to know me more or see some success stories, YouTube is the way to go.
So y'all be sure to check out his YouTube channel. Like I said, it's going to be linked in the description and also the pinned comment. But this is a pretty fun episode of the Side Hustler Society. And it fits perfectly with the theme of this season, that being let's take the word side off the word hustler, become a full-time hustler. So if y'all found value in this video, thumbs up for YouTube algorithm. That's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or any of these other platforms, you can leave us a review. That'd be greatly appreciated. With that being said, we thank you, Oz, for being a part of this show. And we'll catch y'all all in the next episode. Peace out.
Thank you.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.